I'd like to welcome everybody here to our July 16th meeting of the Steamship Authority. And I want to thank the Woods Hole for inviting us to this beautiful dais and meeting room. I wish we had that in all these places. Before I start, Board Council Member Joe Solito would like to introduce a few dignitaries from the island.
I will be chairman of the board of selectmen and board process. We have our making and the town administrator. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. And anybody else? Okay. We'll start right in with it, and let me just, I gotta read a couple statements here for it. I'd like to inform everybody that Sean Driscoll, the authority's communication director, is making audio and video recording of today's meeting. If there's anyone else making an audio or video recording of today's meeting, please identify yourself by pressing the raise your hand icon on the Zoom dashboard if you are joining virtually, or if you are joining by phone, please star 9 on your keypad. And when you are recognized, please state your name for the record.
Or raise your actual hand if you're here. Can you just for the record? I'll be on the other time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Also, I'd like to read into the record here. Pursuant to Section 20 of the Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 as amended, Board Member Rob Rennie is participating remotely in today's meeting because his physical attendance today would be unreasonably difficult. I understand that your attorney, she is not with us right now, but I understand she may be joining us, but I'll just make note of that. Okay. Okay, for those that are participating in the meeting by Zoom video conferencing app, all members will be clearly audible to each other. As a result of these members' remote participation in the meeting, any and all votes taken by the members today shall be by roll call vote. Thank you very much. And moving on, starting in today's our meeting is the approval of the minutes of the authority's June 20th, 2024 meeting and public session.
I'd move the minutes, but
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Roll call.
Malcolm and I.
Jeffrey, I.
Jones, aye.
Randy, I.
Whoops, there you are. Hi, Ron. And now the minutes of the June 27th meeting, 2024 meeting and public session. I'd accept a motion to approve the minutes.
I'd also move those.
I'll second.
It's moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor by roll call?
Malcolm and I.
Jeffrey, I.
Jones, aye.
Randy, I.
Randy, aye. So approved. Okay, moving right into the Port Council's report on the July 2nd, 2024 meeting. Who's speaking for the Port Council?
Mr. Munier is on Zoom.
Oh, hi, Ron.
Hey, Bob, how are you? How's everybody? Hope you can hear me okay.
Yeah.
Good. Just a couple brief comments. We have a new member from Fairhaven, Eric DeWicki. He is the successor to Mark Reese, who did not renew after his first period was up. Eric has a very strong maritime background, so brings another person who really understands marine operations and that sort of realm very well. So we're happy to have Eric joining, representing Fairhaven. We did a normal review of ongoing projects, the Aquinnah and Barnstable, the dredging project, the website. Nothing particularly noteworthy other than progress continues to be made on each of those projects. We had a report on the external audit, and we had a report on the revisions to the 2025 winter and spring schedule, and a vote was taken and unanimously approved for those changes for that schedule. I think the most probably noteworthy part of the Port Council meeting was the discussion around the 41 North proposal for barge service from New Bedford to Martha's Vineyard. There's quite a bit of discussion on the topic. I would say general support, particularly from the members from Falmouth, New Bedford, and Nantucket. There were some reservations from the members from Oak Bluffs and Tisbury regarding just the communications associated with this opportunity and the need to have more discussion and more back and forth on the topic with the key constituents on Martha's Vineyard, in particular Oak Bluffs, and the fact that maybe insufficient communications have been made with the select board and there to provide them the information necessary to have an opinion in a timely way. So the Port Council voted to defer making any kind of recommendation on it. So I think that's sort of punted up to you guys now. I think there was no agenda item and maybe by omission, not any discussion about the process for the general manager evaluation at that meeting. So that had been discussed at the meeting prior. No discussion here. So I think the Port Council would be interested to know just what that process will be based on the authority's input. So that's a short and sweet summary of the Port Council meeting of July 2nd.
Anybody have any questions for Rob? No questions, and thank you so much for joining us, Rob.
Yep, thank you.
Hope you're going to stick with us throughout the meeting here.
Of course.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the general manager's report, Bob.
Good morning, everyone. So the first item we have is an update on the progress on the MV Barnstable and MV Aquinnah conversion. And I see Mark Hamilton is in the cool confines of Mobile, Alabama. So
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
So we're going down the stretch here on the Barnstable and Aquinnah. Next slide, please. This is a picture of the Barnstable. Right now, we've got the sponsons done up and the bulwarks are all painted, which we'll see in subsequent pictures. Next slide, please. Just as a side view, now what's here is we've got the MES link graphs you can see above the Barnstable name, and those are completed now. Next slide, please. One of the additions we've done is a structural fire protection in the engine room. In the event of an engine room fire, you've got an A60 bulkhead that gives you 60 minutes of protection should an event happen. Next slide, please. It's just a back end of the stacks. The stacks are done with the new piping systems installed, and those are 100%. Next slide, please. These are the pictures of the bulwarks. The first coat, the second coat is completed, and lastly, as you can see, all the staging is coming off the vessel, and we'll be blasting the main deck. And then all the coatings will be done. Next slide. So we have, this is kind of not an up-to-date picture, but we have completed all the engine starts, the main propulsion engines and all the auxiliary engines. We're doing commissioning on the new switchboards, controls that we've placed in. On Wednesday, we'll be doing the commissioning of the new, not the new, but the bow thrusters, 2 bow thrusters and the stern thruster. Main engine controls on Thursday. What we have on the schedule is the mechanical accommodation completion schedule is the 24th of July. we had some additional work which came up this past month, including a new davit and a new vestibule entrance into the forward bow thruster room, and those are complete, but they were not complete enough in time to do the incline stability test, which is scheduled for the 15th yesterday. So the new test date for the intact damage stability and incline test is the 24th of July. So moving on, and then we'll follow up with that on dock trials. We've inverted that. That's going to be prior to the stability test, and we'll be doing sea trials during the week of 5 August. And looking at a departure date of 9-10 August from Mobile for the Barnstable. Any questions? I'll just go over the financial snapshot. Right now, we are at the
Mark,
contract.
hang on for a second, we're on one portion here. Peter?
Just, Mark, I guess. How realistic is that vessel depart date on the 9th or 10th, if anything comes out during the sea trial, the 5th, that requires attention?
Well, we've not touched, we've gone through in our dock trials. And we've actually commenced the dock trials on those engines. We're pretty comfortable with where we are with. One of the things we had concerned was electrically on the startup of the vessel, since we removed every electric cable with the removal of the 24-foot mid body, and our startups right now have been flawless. So I'm pretty solid on that date of coming up on the 9th, thereabouts the 9th of August.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, moving on to the snapshot. The contract value 13.7 million, and we're at 2.21 million on the Barnstable and 2.25 on the Aquinnah. And we're at about 15% change order at this moment. We haven't claimed in our credits back yet, and they will be coming in the next snapshot. So that's the situation with the vessels.
Any questions?
I've got
Go ahead, Judy.
Yeah, Mark, do you have any rough sense of the materiality of the credits coming back?
Yeah, I've got right now 650,000. I got final adjustments to be made. A lot of the change orders were result as changes in the initial we'll call it main contract items, as we've pointed out in various times over the past years. So that's where we are as far as I'm looking at that for both vessels.
Thank you.
Good. Any other further questions? Thank you, Mark. Enjoy the heat down there.
Oh, we do every day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
You still have, do you leave?
No, I'm here.
Okay. So next, we would just want to provide an update as to the dredge project that's taking place in Vineyard Haven Harbor, and Mark has a quick update on that.
Yeah, so we've completed the dredging now, and with the last being on the north slip. We can get to the next slide, please. So we found some spots 11 feet off the corner of the dock. They're still well within those are at mean low tide, so we're still fine there, but they did a nice job out there in getting the dredging done for us. And so next slide, please. So obviously the south yard, they removed the most there at 5,933 cubic yards. The north has been complete. The actual update on the north slip was the total of 773 cubic yards, which is a little bit less than the total projected removal. So we're at 100% complete now on the dredging project at Fairhaven.
That's great. Where is the CAD pit?
Excuse me?
I said, where is the CAD pit for the spoils? Where are they dumping them?
Boy, I wish we had our our delegate, but they've, and I understand. Go ahead,
If I
Mark.
may, Mark, my understanding is that they have a cell within the harbor itself that they're putting the materials in.
Okay. Just curious. Any other questions? If not, moving on, thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
So next up we have is the website redesign project. So Stephen Coleman, the project manager, is coming up to give his report.
Good morning, everybody.
Okay.
Sean, if you don't mind, going to slide 2. As you can see in the, on the left-hand side of the page, there are 44 items in the to-do column. But I also bring your attention to the right side, where there was 44 presently. There were 59 at the July 2nd full council meeting, and 35 the last time we met for the board meeting, or last time I was present at the board meeting. 15 remain in development, consistent with 15 on July 2nd and 17 back in May. There are 17 items ready for review from the Steamship, whereas there were 11 on July 2nd and 11 on May 28th. 195 have been approved since March 13th by the Steamship, whereas on July 2nd, there was 194, 145 on May 28th. Outstanding items, load testing, and site monitoring. If you don't mind. Since meeting last, we have identified critical showstoppers, of which on July 2nd at the full council, there were 20 assigned to the Steamship, whereas at the moment there are 6. 2 were assigned to the reservation system vendor, SaberTech. At the moment, 0. 2 were assigned to Stellar Elements. At the moment, it has increased to 6. 18 unassigned on July 2nd, and 11 remain unassigned. I would like to add, we do anticipate identifying more critical items, but the list is certainly finite and not all that comprehensive. Wouldn't mind, Sean. The deployment status remains consistent. I believe at the last time we met on May 7th, Port Council had recommended that we postpone until late September, and we're taking full advantage of that. So we do anticipate a late September, early October launch, running in parallel with the production website as it stands today for a month or 2, and then we'll take down the old website and solely on the new website. Not part of my slides, but I should add that since transitioning to the support contract nearly a year ago, there have been no change orders and no cost overruns. And certainly welcome any questions anybody has.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Jim?
Stephen,
Sir,
you kind of inherited this,
did,
and I'm gonna call it a mess. We've been talking about this now for 3 years,
that's right.
and the concern I had 3 years ago is the concern I still have. Which is, we're gonna spend all this time and all this money for a website that feeds off our reservation system. Most of the traveling public has issues with reservations. The concern I have, I've used the phrase lipstick on a pig before, is what is this actually going to do in terms of helping the traveling public with their reservations, other than accomplish things that we can currently accomplish, but frankly don't look as good or perform as well.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with everything you said, the concerns and the inheritance. It has been a long process, arduous process. that seems to have no end. But we are fairly confident at this point in time that come October, we will have launched this website. To the degree in which our customer base will benefit, certainly the look and feel is a benefit. The manner in which they make reservations is a benefit. There's a cart process that allows users to add to the cart and fill their reservational needs. It has been more of a parallel process. So to what degree it is exceedingly beneficial to the end user is a question. But there is certainly an inherent benefit. I would like to add, paying public does have significant complaints based on the current website as it is today. So if in fact we can allay concerns and diminish, reduce the level of complexity and the number of complaints and calls to the reservation office, it is a benefit to the paying customer and to the steamship as a whole.
Can I follow up? May I follow up?
Of course.
Not to be argumentative, but the issue that most people contact me about is not being able to get reservations. And then there are spaces available on the boat, seemingly. And the difficulty that people in the reservations department have with meeting demand. The concern I have, this isn't going to resolve those issues until we do the whole IT review and get to the reservation system itself. Am I wrong?
You are not wrong.
Peter,
A couple of questions. I mean, the first is once again about support. Once you do deploy this, kind of asked to see a training plan and a support plan and what assets you need. I don't think the reservation office asked them to do one more thing, to be tech support of the website, answering questions. It's a different skill set. And so are we thinking about how we're going to support that? Also, you know, people aren't making or accessing the website just during reservation office hours. So my concern is that we're not planning for what the public will need in terms of assistance to this transition when it happens. Another question I have is, where are we in planning in terms of this website once it deploys? When we move to a new reservation system, are we, I mean, obviously it would be part of any RFP for a reservation system, but are we planning for something where we'll have plug and play and it will not have any impact, at least visually or user wise, to the traveling public? And then as a follow-up, at this point, as long as this is taken, and now that we're moving forward on the reservation system to find a different one, why aren't we just waiting for that reservation system, the new reservation system, since we're going to, I hopefully get rid of the, what, 420, how many APIs are there right now with the website?
Includes 160.
106.
I'll say.
And you can take those one at a time.
Yeah, so, going back to Mr. Malcolm, you're right, this is an inherited.
Steve, could you talk a little
Yes.
closer to the microphone here?
This
Lift it up.
project has been going long before me.
You still can't hear it. Is that on?
We can't hear in the back.
Focus on.
There
Here we go.
There we go.
Thank you. Better.
You can't change the past. It's been in existence for 3 years. It is presently where it is, and hopefully by October, it'll be on. In regards to your questions, Mr. Shepherd, there is in place We are discussing internally support. We do anticipate having a plan for you. I'm sorry. You might repeat your question.
Okay, the one was about, one was about support, the other is, what planning are we doing so that when we move to a new reservation system, that it can drop in without really any impact, at least on the traveling public, the users, and then the follow-up to that is, why aren't we just waiting till we get the new reservation system, which seems to me is the underlying core of what our users and we need, not, you know, not the storefront, but the actual service front.
So there are certainly financial implications to calling on this project. One side, I think that's the primary motivation. As far as, sorry.
Just if I may. So I think in terms of moving to a new reservation system, as we've gone through the discovery process already, for what we have, there's, you know, there's whichever system is ultimately selected, there's going to be some configurations, both on the system side and on the authority side in terms of how we manage that. So realistically, at this point, I think, you know, to have targeted a new reservation system for be available for the 2026 season is that may be aspirational at this point, but you know, we're going to be moving forward. I think the idea of the current the new website is that with the APIs, we should be able to integrate easier with whatever new reservation system it is. So the distinction being is there's the website and there's the reservation system, and most people understand them to be one and the same, and they're not. And so as we move forward to do this, there are benefits that are going to be our customers are going to be able to see, as Stephen pointed out, in terms of being able to have a shopping cart to be able to, if they're doing multiple reservations, they'll be able to access their future reservations, past reservations, and whether it's commuter cards or the like, those features will all be a part of the system. So,
to answer your question, the new look and feel will be in existence for years to come. As far as integration of a new reservation system, it's as Mr. Davis said, it's either API based or iframe based. Either way, we can tear out the guts of this one and replace it with calls to the new reservation system. So you'll see this interface for many years.
Yes, another problem. I'm glad that there's been no change orders or cost overruns since we've moved this to report contract. But I understand that the main motivation is to launch this is now financial. Where are we in terms of the lifespan, the remaining life of the support contract with Stellar Elements? And do you anticipate asking this board for continued assistance from Stellar Elements after that contract?
So the current contract as it stands today allows for automatic renewal for 6 months and at the same price, the low point. So we anticipate proceeding with that.
And with that automatic renewal, is it a threshold that the board would have to approve that? Or
it was part of the original support contract that the board approved. Now, whether the board wanted to revisit that, it's kind of like some of the leases that we have where it's already a factor in that lease, and the approval, the trigger events happen based on the date.
so when does that 6 month period start?
It's 60 days. Well, no, it's back from 60 days prior to October 1st. So August 2nd or something like that.
So we're looking at that automatically renewing before next meeting.
Yeah, you'll see that the previous version of the agenda had an item, but as we were reviewing the support renewal proposal that we received from Stella, which is basically the same as what we already have, that item was dropped from the agenda.
And what's the value of that 6-month automatic renewal?
It's
roughly?
29,000 a month. Which is in line with the ongoing support that we've been receiving from IMARC for the current website.
Jim,
This is not beat up Stephen Day. It's okay. But
It's been going for a while.
having said that, Bob just said that 2026 is aspirational. I think 2025 or 6 is aspirational for a reservation system.
I think 2026 and my sense is that that's going to be aspirational.
Okay, so that's aspirational. And we've got more than 160 APIs in the current reservation system. And the current reservation system, and I've spent enough time with people in the terminals looking at the screens to know that there's lots of errors in there that continue to require more work, perhaps more APIs. Are we going to be chasing our tail to ever get this thing done, given our current dependence upon a system that frankly is not working to our best advantage?
No, I don't believe so, because what you see with terminals, they're using the interface from the reservation system itself. And vendor is supporting that for a period to go. As to whether, to the degree in which we enhance or add greater feature set, is always a question.
So we continue to be dependent upon this one individual who built this system for us.
I'm sorry to say yes.
We continue to be dependent upon the one individual who's built this system for us.
I am sorry to say yes.
okay. Any further questions, comments to Steve? Thank you, Steve. You've done a wonderful job confusing me.
So next we have a presentation from Tom Innes of Gibbous LLC, update the IT review.
Morning, everyone.
I wanna-
So I have a number of slides. My hope is to run through them relatively quickly and then have some time at the end for questions. So please feel free to stop me as I go through. So just to give an update on the project timeline. So we're currently on track with our timeline, having looked at the functionality, the market deep dive. I had mentioned previously the vendor presentations were well attended. We're now working on cost assessment and then have shifted gears from the functionality review to now identifying the requirements and starting to look at the components of the RFP itself. So what I wanted to share with you today on the next slide, talk a little bit about governance, the market analysis, functionality update, and then jump into the what we're seeing in terms of costs and also then some of the risks and mitigation strategies. In terms of governance, so the model has been defined. We've been working with the leadership team to identify the process. This represents the core components, so a prioritization process, a strategic review, defining roles across governance team, leadership, and the IT team, and then really trying to have a process where projects are well defined, that they have a common set of elements of a clear goal, definition of success, that they have a clear ownership, timeline, and dedicated resources. So having all of those pieces in place, and then we've moved to a monthly cadence of regular check-ins to review existing projects, and making sure that there's clear ownership. So this governance process is really going to help us, it's already helping, but then it's going to continue to help as you move into the replacement of the reservation system, and balancing some of the challenges that will come along with that. Any questions? All right, so then just a brief update on the market analysis. So not that you don't already know that Steamship Authority is quite large in the US market. And so looking at the national census of ferry operators, that you're sitting in the largest segment in terms of both vehicle volume, passenger volume. And then when we go to the next slide, looking at it from a spectrum of small volume operators to then commercial freight, you're sitting in the high volume mixed passenger and freight. What's meaningful about this is that to us, that means that you are somebody who is appealing to the vendors, that vendors for ferry systems, that they're interested in your business because you are a larger player. And then on slide 8, so looking at what that looks like. So we've been looking at, again, the 8 different global system vendors provided demos. And this will be something that we'll have to be thinking about as part of the RFP, whoever bids on it. That part of that evaluation process will have to be thinking through things like, what does support look like across time zones? What's their US presence? What's their capability to handle issues when they come up, because they will come up. And so thinking through this is informing both what we're going to ask of the vendors and then how we're going to evaluate their response. And then on the next slide, we've just highlighted some of the key features that were presented. So across all the vendors, a very strong focus on the user experience, but also the back office experience. So really looking at how do we make it a user-friendly process for public users, for commercial users, and then also how does the data integrate, and what are some of the options in terms of reporting, in terms of integration with systems. And then finally, something that was highlighted in many of the presentations was communications, and how, right, things change. And so there's a need to have ongoing communication and timely and relevant communication. And so the vendors having different ways to communicate to the traveling public, and also to commercial users. And some of the vendors went even further in terms of an integrated port experience, terminal experience, where you've got navigation through from buying the ticket all the way through boarding. So thinking about where is there an opportunity to improve every part of the experience as we're going through this process. So there's a lot of opportunity, but it also represents a lot of change. So we've done a functionality review, which would be on the next slide, looking to map out different workflows. So we identified sort of 7 different areas, and many of them have multiple workflows behind them. How the accounting process, bulk process, data trip process, and gave us an opportunity to identify different places to enhance the workflow, reduce complexity, and identify where is there high potential for error in the process, and looking at that as opportunities to remove it. So I mean, I could give you different examples, but definitely, I'm sure you're aware of some of them. So we've been looking at then the functions, options, and then possible improvements. Now what's going to be challenging with this is, right, so any opportunity to enhance workflow and change how the work is done means it's a change management. So there's going to be a business transformation that is part of going to a new reservation system, right? Whether people like or don't like the existing screens, the existing interfaces, the existing systems, they've gotten used to them. And so it's going to be a big lift to move from how it works today to how it works in the future. That's going to be a process in itself. So you're going to go through a technology transformation, but also need to be thinking about a business transformation in parallel. So that informs the next piece, which is, you know, thinking about the cost of a system like this. So we know you've been asking about costs, and so to give some you know, high level sense of this, that from our experience with, you know, complex operations like this, software cost represents something like 20 to 30% of the project cost. Now, if you benchmark this other places, you may find that, you know, software cost is maybe 50% of the project, but typically that's with that's when you're not going through also a business transformation and you're swapping out systems. In this case, we think that the other costs will end up being significant. So looking at, you know, the network, because this will be, you know, all of the vendors have been offering systems that are real-time systems hosted externally. So that's going to put a lot on the network. Thinking about hardware, thinking about integrations with your, you know, systems that are going to continue to remain, like your accounting system, and then also thinking about training and how do you get, right, people that have used the same system for their entire careers in some cases now doing, you know, very similar function, but you know, using a different interface. And so you know, what we've seen from the vendors, we've got limited information, but we're estimating that the actual software cost is going to look something like 1 to 3 million annually. And a project timeline of, you know, all the vendors have said that they can do it in a year. We'd like to project like a 2 or 3 year to get this done. But the operations transformation is going to be what really makes this a challenge. So this is also something to be thinking about in terms of the RFP, is to take some of the lessons learned from the website of, okay, you know, something that we're always trying to bake into projects is this idea that the technology can be ready. And just because the technology is ready doesn't mean that you actually implement it. So you may have the technology ready and then work through the business transformation and then have the two come together. So thinking about how that contract gets written so that so that you get the vendor moving as fast as you want them to, and then you allow the business to catch up. So some of the risks that we've identified, that we're starting to think through what are some of the mitigation strategies. So as was mentioned before, right, the website, the APIs. For this one, to consider the vendor's approach and vendor options. So this is where, again, you can leverage the RFP process, that we can ask them, you know, both, you know, tell us how you would integrate with the APIs and also tell us, you know, your other approaches for integrating with the website that should be launched by them. And then for the operations transformation, we're suggesting that it may be time to now or very soon to really start thinking about some change teams, some different you know, groups that maybe, you know, maybe it's based on the kind of 7 workflows that we've identified. It could be, something different than that. But identifying change teams, change leaders, and start thinking through what the future could look like. In terms of hardware, looking at the existing contracts and specifications, especially if we're really talking about a system not going live for 3 years. Now we're talking, being in the hardware replacement cycle anyway. And so how can we leverage that? With the network, this is going to be a big one. So thinking about reviewing the resiliency and uptime of the network. Now we know a lot of progress has been made on that technology debt that also existed in the network. But this is something that you can test and plan. For the data migration piece, right, it's the least fun part of any project like this is moving the data from the old system to the new systems. Here to start thinking about, building out the Steamship Authority's informatics team. There's already some positions that have been talked about to kind of build out what some of the gaps within the existing team. Filling some of those gaps, like a database administrator, is going to help you both with the migration, but it's also going to help you. The bulks and trucks process, to start thinking about this as a parallel effort. The whole preseason process that Steamship goes through. None of the vendors offer that because it's pretty unique. It's not pretty unique. It is unique to the Steamship Authority. And so thinking about how to plan that as a parallel effort so that you don't get to the end of the reservation system and then start thinking about how the bulks process needs to change. And the last piece is really competing priorities, right? This is hard. This is a lot. And at the same time, you're still climbing out of the technology debt, and you're going to have new needs come along. And so, right, hopefully the website launches soon, and that right now is a competing priority, but there will be others that come down the road. And so this is where that governance model really becomes critical to continue to leverage it and use it. It's something new, so it's going to need to change and modify a little bit over time, but really making sure that there's the proper focus, the proper dedication, and again learn from some of the challenges over the last 3 years of the website. So thoughts, questions?
Sure.
Please do.
Okay, IT has been a concern of mine for at least 4 years. Question, and change management is really hard. I've often said it's like learning to brush your teeth with the other hand. You don't do it naturally.
Yeah.
And it takes effort. So, a couple things. One, why is truck and bulks a separate process? Why is it different than, say, the passenger issue and the reservation issue? Given if we are the lifeline, food, fuel, medicine is core to our issue, core to what we do. Bringing that stuff here. Why is that separate and distinct from everything else you're talking about?
So the most of it with the new system, most of it will be in the new system. And actually one of the things that we think the Steamship Authority would benefit from is having, right now, largely in the system, there's not a huge difference between how a commercial operator works and how a vacationer,
Private vehicle.
they get the same experience in the online and the website. There's not a lot of variation. And so in the future, being able to better cater to some of the operational needs of the trucks and shippers, being able to look at the schedule for the season, being able to, not scroll through reservations, but be able to have a view that's a little bit more specific to their needs and how they operate. So think in terms of like a commercial portal that is that's similar but a little bit distinct from the private vehicle. Where the Steamship Authority has a challenge is the whole start of the season process, where the shippers need to ask for certain times and then have it goes through a process then to make sure that the outcome of that is fair.
Mhm.
And so today that gets done offline from the reservation system and then uploaded into it. And what we'd like to see is maybe that starts with the portal process. It then, it cranks through this, this fairness process and then gets loaded into the new reservation system. So similar to how it works today, but looking at how to do it in a better way.
So what you're saying then, when you're talking about operational and organizational change,
Mhm.
is that as an example?
Jim, I don't think.
That microphone's not on.
Oh, okay, technology, I'm really good at that. So what you're saying then, if I hear, is part of the organizational change that we have to do is the current reservation system for our trucks
Mhm.
or bulk is done manually and then uploaded into a system starting in November. What other kinds of things have you seen that require organizational change? Because I know from observation that when we change trips or boats on particular trips, suddenly the scanned tickets wind up not actually providing information to accounting,
Mhm.
but they get bundled up, I think, and then they go to accounting, and then accounting ties them into the reality of what happened that day.
Yeah. So because right now we have a system that's optimized for working offline, which means then that there's a lot of delay in the system. And so when a boat changes, the system takes a bit to catch up to it. And in order to make sure that everything ties together, accounting needs to go through and review and make sure that all the tickets have been, identified correctly and scanned correctly.
So tickets with barcodes or QC codes or whatever those
Yeah.
funny looking codes are, wind up then getting manually accounted for.
No.
No, yes, hello?
So they get potentially get manually adjusted onto the trip they actually traveled on. So what happens when a boat comes in, it's predetermined, say the Martha's Vineyard 815 trips leaving slip 1. So if for some reason they went into slip 2, those trips might go into not the right trip. So we look at the first ticket scanned in that period and the last time and both move those over into that trip. So the better way for process change, like you're talking about, the easier way for the frontline staff to make that change from slip 1 to slip 2, so those tickets automatically go in. It's a win-win across the board for efficiency.
But we can't do that now with the system. Is that correct?
We can make it easier in the system to do it.
Thank you.
Questions? Peter?
Just wanted to address kind of this idea of the change teams and leaders, as well as the SSA informatics team. What skill sets are needed? And do we have those skill sets available to us now? And if not, how do we get them?
I mean, the change process typically is a facilitated process that you need a lot of handholding to work through it. And what what we need to make sure of is that this doesn't become an IT project. It becomes a steamship authority project, so that everyone who is going to use the new reservation system feels ownership, feels that they were part of the process, feels that they understand what was happening, feels that they had input into the process. And then when invariably there's going to be challenges that come along, they feel that they want to be part of the solution. And so typically to do that, it's that's part of the reason why we're suggesting some change teams and leaders, that there's a process one goes through to get there.
But in a sense of what I'm hearing, it starts with executive leadership buy-in and making this a top priority in order for this to be successful.
Yes, yep, and that would be part of the governance process, is that the leadership team has prioritized this, has identified, space and time in people's workday to work on it, think about it. And then the really hard thing is also to be thinking about what gets put to the side. And it's very easy to say, well, nothing, but it's an opportunity to make strategic choices about, okay, what do we necessarily deprioritize, knowing that something will get pushed out.
And I agree with, this has to be a top priority after actually having the vessels run between the islands. Because I see our current reservation system, it's a rotting ship where we keep on pumping bilge.
There's an analogy. One thing in the Okay,
I
but
hadn't thought of that one yet, but
Yeah.
in that sense, yes, there's a lot of.
we're staying on it here. So one thing I'd suggest to the board and management, we've got the whole issue with our strategic plan, where we've got teams working on different elements of the strategic plan. This sounds like we're gonna have another group of teams or the same people who also have day jobs, having to work on getting this done as a matter of priority. And this is gonna require, it sounds to me like staff and commitment as well as money to get this done, get it done right. So is that something the board and the management really have to be aware of?
This is a heavy lift.
Pardon?
This is a heavy lift.
It's heavy and it's broad, but
Yep.
cross organization. Thank you.
And no one team can overwhelm the other teams. You have to have, you can't have accounting dictating what, for an operational standpoint, what needs to be done. They need to have a voice in it, but just like the same thing from an operational standpoint, to be able to say, this is how we need it to be done, and accounting or, marketing or whatever, adapt to it, so.
I know, I agree with you. The issue that I see is that we're not the same people who are leading the strategic planning initiatives. I think it's 8 groups, 7 or 8 groups. We're not the same people involved in this as well. Plus, of course, then there's the 10 or 12-hour day jobs. Big lift. Thank you.
Okay, folks, are there any more questions?
Thank you, Tom.
All I can say for myself is education. And I still don't know what you're talking about. But I'll continue to try, but thank you very much. And no more questions, and we'll go forward, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
All right, SQMS audit results.
So Ms. Sullivan is coming up to fill everyone in on the details of the recent arena audit.
Good morning, everyone. Next slide, please, Sean. In June, we completed our external surveillance, ISM and ISO audits.
Could you stand in front of the mic, speakers?
Auditor Ty Haynes of Rena conducted a 5-day on-site audit, which included the various shoreside locations noted on the slide and addition 3 vessels, the MV Island Home, MV INO, and MV Martha's Vineyard. Shortly thereafter, Aaron D. Marcan of Rena conducted a 1-day audit of our SQMS for conformance to our ISM safety management system. Next slide, please. As a visual aid on how the ISO and ISM apply to our SQMS, please see the Venn diagram. ISO and ISM standards overlap on various processes to which are all included in our SQMS. It's important to note that the audits themselves have very different focuses. ISO being quality and ISM being safety, both of which are subject to audit findings regardless of which audit is ongoing. Next slide, please. To provide a more visual example of how the audit findings are viewed, I have included a stoplight as an example. As you can see, major and minor nonconformities are really showstoppers, specifically safety showstoppers. And depending on the results, can result in a vessel not being able to sail. Whereas yellow is a cause for concern and green is good standing. The next couple of slides will go into our findings, which I would like to emphasize. There are no showstoppers. Next slide, please. Red light findings, again, nonconformities. We did have 3 nonconformities during the ISM audits, all of which are policy related. We have the practices in place as noted in our reports, but we are lacking an update to our policies. The first one, it was identified that we had a gap in recording U.S. Coast Guard inspection and other external audits within our event reporting process. Second one, a gap included the ship certificate binder as an official requirement. And the third one is updating our sexual harassment policy to capture all the elements of the U.S. Coast Guard requirements. Again, all the audit findings are policy related, and we're currently working to incorporate them into our next audit, my apologies, policy updates. Next slide, please. Which brings us to 2 yellow or cause for concern areas, and it's important to note that yellow findings can be elevated to nonconformities should no action be taken. The first observation is the organizational chart. It was identified a gap that did not show a direct line of communication between the designated person ashore and the general manager. And the second was a cybersecurity observation that identified an opportunity for improvement in assessing other potential cybersecurity risks. Our policy does capture phishing, but the auditor identified that we could include more. Again, all the ISM findings are currently in review, and we are determining the best way to move forward and incorporating them into our policies. Next slide, please. Regarding our ISO audit, at this time, the report is still in draft form, waiting for RENA to give the final approval. And it is for that reason that I would rather summarize the opportunities below, which are all potentially at risk of becoming observations. However, in summary, all 9 opportunities are directly related to opportunities for improvement in improving existing policies. No showstoppers. All findings will be addressed in our next policy update. And again, it's important to mention that the report has still yet to be finalized, which means any of these 9 opportunities for improvement could result in an observation depending on RENA's determination. Regarding our budget, at this time, there were no deviations. So I do expect that we are still in good standing. We still have 93,000 left to our budgets, and no invoices yet have been processed. So I did not capture that information here. Any questions?
Questions from the board?
No.
None here. Good job. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bridget. All right, next, staff wants to present for approval the 2025 winter and spring operating schedules. So Ms. Fletcher is here to fill everyone in.
Try not to unplug myself because I didn't know his reports or anything.
We'll look back.
You wouldn't notice the difference with the hair anyway, so. So, I'm here to propose the 2025 winter and spring operating schedule for both the Nantucket and the Vineyard routes. This past March, the authority placed newspaper advertisement for the proposed winter, well, actually the entire year schedule of 2025. and we had it in the press and it appeared on January 4th. This, sorry, I'm starting over because I'm one of those days. The operating schedule will run from January 4th of 2025 through January 4th of 2026. Notices of the proposed schedule were also published for public comment on the authority's website. On April 29th, the authority received a petition with respects to the proposed schedule that was signed by 82 Massachusetts residents, primarily from the town of Falmouth and surrounding areas. In this petition, the residents objected to the authority's scheduling of 5:30 a.m. freight boat trips from Woods Hole. This year, the petitioners also objected to the Vineyards 5:30 a.m. departure, stating the same reasons for the Woods Hole departure. Noise pollution, keeping them awake, and other impacts to the road. The petition did not object to cars traveling on those scheduled ferries. On May 7th of 2024, the authority conducted a public hearing for the proposed 2025 schedule. With regards to the authority's Nantucket route, the comments received on the following hearing were for increase in trips or allocations. Most comments received at the hearing were in writing before and after the hearing had been directed to the Martha's Vineyard route. Because of the nature of the public comments directed to any of the authority's proposed 2025 schedules for the Nantucket route, management recommends the approval of the 2025 winter and spring operating schedule. There is no real difference between the schedule other than the start date. It started on the same date as it did this year, and it'll be ending 2 days earlier than it did in 2024. The boats that you'll be seeing operating are pretty much the same with the exception of the freight boats. We're hoping to have up and running the Barnstable in place of the Gay Head and the Aquinnah in place of the Sankaty when it goes to the 3-boat schedule from March 25th to May 14th. The proposed winter and spring operating schedule for the Vineyard route would start on January 4th, the same day as in 2024, and run through May 12th, ending 2 days earlier. There again has been no change in the scheduled times, quantity of trips, and as such, the only difference you'll be seeing instead of the Katama running would possibly be a corner running in its place. Due to planning, maintenance activities on the Vineyard Haven terminal, the staff is recommending that the freight vessels, which customarily berth on island, depart at 5:30 a.m., berth on the mainland during this time period. So the first scheduled trip off island. The first scheduled freight trip off island would be 6:30 a.m., but you would still have the 6 a.m. departure like we always do. The Port Council voted unanimously to recommend the approval of the 2025 winter and spring operating schedule. Any questions?
Questions? Could I have a motion then?
No, Bob's got something.
If I may, the one thing, Allison mentioned, we have some, maintenance that we need to be doing at the Vineyard Haven terminal, but, should there be, this, once the schedule for that is determined, we would like to, reserve the right to be able to reinstate that 5:30, berthing the freight boat on island for that 5:30, trip off island. We're at this point, it's uncertain as to the schedule of the,
It would be
of
very
the
similar
scope.
to how we did it this past winter, where we had to remove it, we removed it, we have it in there. We're also telling all our shippers to request a 5:30. And what we're gonna be doing is we'll put them on a wait list. So when we do find the periods of time where we can actually have the 5:30 running, we'll activate those trips. The wait list will make matches for them, and those that should be on the 5:30 due to their lottery numbers will actually get the trips designated.
So just,
Yep.
the schedule presented isn't the schedule that you wanna run. If
We want to run the 5:30, it's just a matter of, we don't know when the construction's gonna happen, so there'll be a period of time during the winter and spring that we will not have a 5:30, we just don't know at this time what that date the construction will be.
But it's anticipated that there will be a 5:30 at some point during this
Correct.
period of time,
For the
which
vineyard
my
side.
town objects to.
Yes, the vineyard
I
side,
just want to be clear what you're asking me to vote on. So
no, that's absolutely.
what was presented is fantastic and I would vote in favor of it. But what you're now asking me to do is
Right,
vote against what my town has asked.
right, and
So-
it's not the 5:30, because during this time period, we don't have the 5:30 leaving Woods Hole.
Right,
It's
but you
just-
still have the
yes,
one coming in. from-
Correct, just wanna make sure that part was clear.
Yeah, understood.
Okay.
Peter, so what you're saying your town is objecting to the 5:30 departure from the vineyard that arrives at 6:15 in film.
That was many of the comments in the public hearing, yes, from the town.
They objected to both.
Right.
Okay. Could I have a motion to approve or disapprove?
I have one for, yeah.
I did, Jim.
I make that motion, I have a comment after
Of
motion
course.
gets seconded, assuming it does.
I'll second it.
Oh. So the question, learning from this year's experience, if we have to, if we go to one slip in the winter or in the spring in Vineyard Haven, can we open up Oak Bluffs, weather permitting, to accommodate the traffic?
We are looking at that and then potentially altering the freight schedule by 10 or 15 minutes, give or take if need be as well, if we can't get into Oak Bluffs.
Correct, I'm just, let's learn from experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's on our radar for this year. For right now, the engineering is going on right now. I'm hoping to have that completed at the end of the month. Then once we have that, we can look at the permitting process as well as the scope of work and getting that out to bid, and then we would be able to give a better time frame on that phase 2 of that project on slip 2.
Okay, please keep up Bluffs informed on this stuff.
Of course.
Thank you.
Okay, then I'll bring it to a vote. It'll be a roll call vote, and I'll start off with Rob.
Rainey, aye.
Peter,
Jeffrey abstains out of frustration.
understand.
Malcolm A, and I sympathize with your pain.
Jones, aye. That carries. Moving on.
All right, next, I want to come back again, to discuss the future of the authority's advertising policy. So I think I'll start, and Sean is more than willing to discuss this, so. So as you recall, last month's meeting, the board tasked staff to review, 2 options for the, advertising policy. Whether it could be modified to, accept just, governmental advertisements or, Yep.
Okay. So
what's
as
the other one?
everyone's aware, we've been talking about this for several months, and the direction from the last board meeting was to see if we could change the policy to either accept only government advertising or to strengthen the policy that stands to avoid situations like we had earlier this year regarding the ad that was placed by PETA. So after Mr. Keneally and I put our heads together, and I presented quite a lengthy analysis that I won't read out loud, but our opinion is that the policy as it stands will allow us the flexibility to ensure advertisements with potentially controversial messages be properly labeled. It's not an endorsement. That option, anything short of that, basically, we're worried about getting sued. So our options that we're presenting are to essentially leave it as it is or shut it all down. No government advertising, no nonprofit advertising. Anything short of that is going to be a subject matter review by us, and that's where we get into trouble. And Terry can say it in Latin and make it much more convincing than I can, but we looked at, and Terry really looked at several cases, and there is one very much on point from Los Angeles. That was referenced in the letter that PETA sent, I know, directly to you. So I know that this year there have been a lot of questions about it, but we've been offering advertising for 17 years. I've been here for 6. This is the first instance of this that I can recall. And I will note that the Massachusetts Fisheries Group took out an ad in response to the PETA ad. So with that system, there was an opportunity for them to counter that point of view. But our opinion is that we keep on keeping on, and then our second choice is to shut it all down and we use it for purely internal messaging, which would not allow us to give space to anybody.
Any questions? Well, I'll make a comment. I at first didn't want to rush into shutting it down until, you know, in favor of revising the paperwork and conditions of the ad, and have subsequently got a communique from the whale group. I don't know exactly who they were, but Tom was pretty combative. They stated, you know, how large they are and things like that, First Amendment things, and they're not wrong. I mean, personally, you know, from my take, I'm certainly 100% in favor of protecting the whales, but I also am 100% in favor of the fishermen and the lobstermen making a living. There's one thing to sit in your living room and write a check to you know, a heartfelt cause such as this is, and there's another thing to being on the water and experience and repel the prevailing, that's the wrong. I'm sorry, I'm stuck on that, but anyways, being on the water and earning a living for your family and whatever. So my suggestion is going to be that I'll make a motion that we hold this, put a moratorium on our advertising for right now, and let the ads run out that we have in place, and I don't know when those are, and then not come back until we develop a verbiage and language that may give us a little better handle on doing this. And if we can't find something that's suitable, that won't trigger the First Amendment things, then the moratorium stands until such time that something happens. But at least, you know, I don't believe that our ships should become a battleground for, you know, different advocacy groups. And as much as I agree with both of them, you know, I certainly 100% in favor of protecting the whales, and likewise the fishermen and lobstermen. And to me, their lives and survival and things depend upon them to set those traps. But this will take us out of the mix and give us time to work on it. I just finished my last book by Anton Scalia and things, and one of the things he was popping about is the First Amendment, which is one of his favorite subjects and things, but he quoted something about some municipal building or somebody put a picture of President Reagan, and somebody was protesting that naturally, and you know, with the First Amendment, as a veteran, it empowers me that people will burn American flags and do things like that, and but the First Amendment protects that, and either we agree with the First Amendment, it takes the good and the bad with it. So that would be my motion to put it a little more right there, Peter.
If I can make a comment. You know, the board has spent 3 meetings now talking about this and about the content of the specific advertisers that on Vogue. And that makes me very leery. I don't think the board should be talking about the content of advertising. We set the policy, but we should be looking at, do we want advertising or not? And so if it's the pleasure of this board to no longer advertise, I could vote that way. If it was the pleasure of this board to continue as is, I'd vote this way, that way too. Because this too shall pass. But I want to get away from trying to figure out a way. You want the authority to screen advertising content. If we vote that there's no advertisement, then I think we're putting this to bed. And we're just going to give up that revenue stream. If that's for the benefit of the traveling public and it's something that's valuable to them, I can support that. But we shouldn't get into the weeds of talking about what is content at the board level. That makes me very nervous. And hopefully the 14th and the First Amendment aren't going to change, so I don't think our policy can change other than this binary decision. Either we have advertising, we don't have.
Just so I understand, the motion was to not enter into any new advertising agreements.
Put a moratorium on it until we've either developed proper verbiage that will pass the muster to allow some types of advertising.
Okay, so just so that I even understand that,
Mhm.
we're going to allow current contracts to expire,
They
run
have,
out,
they have.
and we will take no new advertising,
Mhm.
essentially table any advertising until a decision is made to take advertising.
Right.
I don't
second
believe
that
it.
motion.
Yeah, just, I don't believe there is a policy that's gonna get to where you want us to go, Mr. Jones, so we're effectively.
But the motion might get.
No, I apologize.
I can't hear anything that you all are saying. I can't hear a word of anything you're saying.
Rob, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Although I did miss part of that discussion.
Thank you.
Rob, can you hear us now?
Yes.
I can hear you, but I did miss part of that discussion.
Okay, well, I'm gonna cut that discussion short and I'm gonna withdraw my motion. So you don't have to go through that. And I will make, I will let Jim or Peter, one of their motions, whatever they want to make.
Yeah.
You didn't miss
Okay,
anything.
to try and bring this to a close, I would move that we, got no new advertising. Going forward until such time as the board, decides to change that policy.
Second.
Can you restate that motion, please?
Sure. I move that the board accept no new advertising until such time as it changes the policy. It changes the policy to accept advertising.
So if I understand you, that the current advertising contracts will continue until they expire.
Correct.
We won't accept anything new until we've come up with a different advertising policy?
Until the board decides to create a new advertising policy. Yes.
Okay.
Just for a point of clarity, because I'm sure it's gonna come up. Existing advertisers may be saying upon renewal that it's the same ad. So therefore, it's not new advertising.
You're saying, no, are you saying?
You're saying that is the proposal to cease advertising upon the expiration of the current contracts.
What you said, yes.
Okay.
Strictly based on the contract, not only what they've done. So anyways, I will accept a roll call vote starting with Laura.
I'm gonna vote no on that.
You're gonna what?
I'm voting no.
Okay. I'm hesitating because you didn't hear the discussion, a lot of it.
My concern is that I believe that staff's recommendation is a good one, and I think we should go with that, not what Mr. Malkin suggests.
Can somebody repeat that so I can understand it?
So Mr. Rainey was saying that he agrees with the staff's recommendation to continue the advertising policy as is, which includes that a disclaimer would be on the bottom of any poster that it's not, does not reflect the views of the Steamship Authority or the Commonwealth. As opposed to option 2 was to cease the advertising program.
Which is a motion.
Which is actually the motion that's on the floor at the moment.
Okay, do you understand the difference between the two, Rob?
Yes, I do. I want option 1.
Okay, moving on to Peter's motion.
Jeffrey, just so that we can stop talking about the content of advertising at board meetings.
Malkin, aye.
Jones, aye. Okay, moving forward.
All right, so the next item, staff just wanted to provide the board with an update on the status of the license request that was submitted by 41 North Offshore. Following discussions with the Port Council, we had forwarded the information, the application and the comments that we received to the Oak Bluffs Town Administrator, who then had that as presented that to the Select Board. When that was taken up last week. Myself, along with Jonah Mikatowicz of 41 North, attended that meeting to try to answer any questions that had come up. At the end of the meeting, a letter was going to be prepared and forwarded to the Steamship Authority. I was handed that letter this morning. I have not read that letter. We'll be taking it up at the Port Council meeting at the August meeting.
Jim,
Thank you. Thank you. As the chairman of the Board of Selectmen from Oak Bluffs is here and Oak Bluffs is involved, I wonder if we'd allow the chairman to make a statement on this issue.
sure.
Thank you. Sorry, the letter that we sent, because this is sort of new news to us, was late. I planned to maybe have it prepared by Friday or Monday, but I got it to you today. And we reviewed it. Mr. Davis kindly came to our meeting and answered the questions that we had. And then we met with the police chief, just town administrator, I and the police chief, because he wasn't sure about it, and that's really one of the bigger concerns that we had was the traffic and the safety. So we, as proposed, we oppose this, but should it happen, we would prefer that conditions be put into the license if you can. The concern we have is the safety of pedestrians and also the traffic issues. This proposal proposes a barge coming in with freight and tugboat up to twice a day, between the windows of 5:35 a.m. to 6:05 a.m., which is early in the morning. Not so much of an issue with our traffic. But then between 5:20 p.m. and 5:40 p.m., which is already chaotic for us. Oak Bluffs, the portable Bluffs, the terminal, is very different from any other steamship terminal. It's different from Hyannis, it's different from Nantucket, different from Woods Hole, and even different from Vineyard Haven, in that it comes right into the center of town. A block away is the harbor that has 3 excursion boats coming in and out during the day. And the cars come, exit right into the center of our town. And we have 2 pretty crowded public beaches directly on either side of the terminal. So we are very sensitive about what would happen during that afternoon run, especially as it concerns a barge and a tug. The windows of time that are proposed are very tight in the afternoon, because there are boats coming into the steamship terminal, one leaving right before and one coming in right after the leave. So if there's any delay in the tug coming in, it would create a problem. There, and certainly a barge idling off that area in town is a concern to us. So that's generally what is in the letter, but I would ask you please to read the letter where it's a little more specific. And I thank you for your.
Thank you for your input. Any questions, Peter?
My favorite spot. Woods Hole can very much emphasize with Oak Bluffs in terms of traffic impact in the 5:30 a.m. being very early in the morning. I guess, I want your concerns addressed, but as we move forward, part of it, I think the board needs to look, what is our licensing policy? And is what 41 North requesting, should it be approved under that licensing policy? And then I'm getting frustrated as we try to find other ports, and here's another port that isn't, but suddenly it's not moving forward. And I can understand that your town wasn't notified and you're just dealing with this now, but if the case is that that's too much freight and too much traffic coming over on a barge, then I would say with the expanded capacity of our new vessels, the Barnstable, Aquinnah, and Monomoy, then is Martha's Vineyard looking to cap freight? Because I can tell you Woods Hole doesn't want any more freight coming through it on these vessels. And those same trucks, be they on barge or be they on a steamship vessel, the capacity is going to increase, and they're gonna come through my town, and they're gonna at least exit in Vineyard Haven. So I guess I would like a little bit more regional cooperation. Are we talking about capping freight because its traffic impact is too great on my town as well as the towns?
I don't think that my comments would anyway lead to limiting freight.
So you.
I think
you just-
our concern is if you look at the afternoon boat. And just look at the terminal in Oak Bluffs, which is very different from Woods Hole and very different from any of the Woods Hole terminals. So when you're talking about, it's not so much the 5 trucks that may be coming off and entering into the town, but it's really coming on a barge, coming with a tugboat coming in, having 2 crowded beaches on either side of your dock. And then if there's a 5-minute delay from either side of this very small window, it's gonna be chaos. Woods Hole is different, and we sympathize with you. And we're saying that, you know, the morning's not so bad, that 5 AM in the morning, 6 AM in the morning, there's really no traffic for us. We had our druthers, no, we wouldn't want a tug coming in at that time, but, you know, in working together with you, we're saying the morning is not so much of the concern as that afternoon boat, which somewhat is almost undoable. We just look at the conditions on the second page, but no, it's not looking at limiting, right? And there is an alternative in Tisbury with Tisbury towing, which is where barges usually come in. Not our business why you don't, or why 41N doesn't use that option or explore that option, but that for us seems to be a reasonable option. And I believe Tisbury may also agree with that. So that's hopefully answered your questions and clarified what our concerns may be.
Saki, your point is well taken, and I think the disposition of this should go back to the Port Council because they wanted to. Oh, I'm sorry, there's another question, I'll let you go, but anyway, so go ahead, Jim.
No, I agree, Mr. Chairman, as a matter of process, this needs to go back to the Port Council in any event, but I do want to go on the record saying the following. What you just heard from the chairman of the board of select board in the town of Bluffs. And what Mr. Jeffries has said, and what I will say as well as the following. I am representing the Vineyard, not adverse to traffic between New Bedford and Martha's Vineyard. And I would point out that Tisbury Towing in the last year had 428 round trip barge trips between New Bedford and Martha's Vineyard. The service exists. Service is used now, and it does use Tisbury Towing stock, which is out of the recreational boat field in Tisbury, which is a concern that Tisbury has. In terms of growth, our island, your town, the Cape, we all suffer from growth, or we all profit from growth, and that's a continued discussion in all of the towns and all of the communities. People who live on the island need the transport of goods and services that we provide. So I want to go on the record and make sure people understand, I'm not against New Bedford. We currently have a service that has 428 round trips in the last year to New Bedford. Whether we need another one for, as I think Jonah indicated, was maybe 6 trips a year. He thought based on demand is anybody's guess. I'm not opposed to competition, but the question is, to what extent is this necessary? We have an agreement that the Steamship Authority already has. It's a court-ordered agreement with Tisbury Towing that provides port service via barge for a number of things. In short, to a barge by water between the islands of Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, or Massachusetts mainland, cranes, large construction equipment that cannot reasonably be carried on the Steamship Authority's vessels because of size, modular homes, petroleum in bulk, other bulk, break bulk, or containerized cargoes, and vehicles carried in connection with and incidental to the carriage of the same, and used for continued transport. So there are agreements in place to do this. that are existent and there are existent operations. I simply want to go on the record as saying Martha's Vineyard is not against using Nantucket as a port and currently does use Nantucket as a port. Which is remote. Pardon me?
You had, you stand Nantucket.
Thank you. I stand and sit corrected.
That would be expensive.
That would be very expensive.
Okay, thank you again, and we're gonna put this back to the Port Council and let them pass it out. And it'll be back before the board with their recommendation. Moving on.
I think that does it for me. I think Mr. Rozum's up next.
Good morning, everyone. Still morning, right? Yep,
Barely.
barely. Okay, so for the business summary for the month of May, passenger carried for both routes combined, we're down 3.2% or just over 8,800 passengers. Year to date, passengers carried are up 0.4% or just over 3,500 passengers. Vehicles carried, passenger vehicles carried. So for the month of May, the Vineyard route was down 6% at just over 2,700 passengers. The Nantucket was down 7.1% or 563 passenger vehicles. Both routes combined were down 6.2%. Year to date, we're down 5% on both routes combined, or just over 10,000 passengers. And we continue to passenger vehicles, excuse me. And we continue to see weakness in the standard fare automobiles and trucks. Freight vehicles, and all these stats are one-way travel. Freight vehicles, for the month of May, both routes combined were up 2% or 197 vehicles. Year to date, we're just up 0.7% at 258 vehicles, with the Vineyard route being up and the Nantucket route being down. Cars parked, mirroring the passengers I just mentioned previously. We're down about 3.9% for both routes combined, or 694 vehicles. Year to date, we're up 8% or 3,400 vehicles. The majority of that increase is on the Vineyard route or in Falmouth for the cars parked. Trips cancellations, year to date so far, we had, for the month of May, we had 29 mechanical cancellations, none for weather, and 23 for traffic, and 43 for crewing issues. And you look in the last two lines of the slide, year to date, we're up on the mechanicals and the weathers compared to last year, at 1% versus 0.6% for last year for the mechanical cancellations. Financial snapshot. Operating revenues is up 13.3 million. We're down about 616,000. We had other income of 2.7 million, which is up about 1.4 million, and that's just the timing of the grant revenue that I mentioned earlier that was down earlier in the year. Operating expenses for the month were down 575,000. Putting this all together, we had a net operating income of 4.9 million, which was about 1.4 million ahead of budget. Year to date, we still are operating in the loss. We have a net operating loss of 10,690,000. But that is ahead of budget by 1.8 million, where we're forecasting to be in the hole about 12.5 million at this point. Operating revenues, you can see the major categories, the automobile, freight, and passengers were down for the month, offset by other income. And additionally, we are receiving higher interest income on our funds as well compared to budget. Year to date, we're down about 297,000 or 0.7% for operating revenue. Operating expenses, here we can see for the year to date, we're down 1.7 million on the maintenance expenses, and most of that's the timing of projects. One thing that isn't timing, for example, is we didn't have to do any dock repairs for Oak Bluffs due to the weather, and that saved us about $300,000 this year. Year to date fuel usage, we're down 593,000 or 14.3%. We budgeted $3.54 a gallon, and it's coming in at $3.11. For the month of June, passengers carried on both routes combined were up 4.8%, with the Nantucket route being down 2.5%, while the Vineyard was up 6.5%. And vehicles carried, both routes combined were up for the month of June, 1,154 vehicles, or 1.7%. The Vineyard route was up 2.7%. and the Nantucket route was down 3.4%. One thing to keep in mind on the automobiles, we see the standard fare is up 2.5%. But during the month of June this year, we had 10 weekend days, but last year we had 8. So some of that's a little bit of misleading with the way the calendars fall. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions anyone may have.
Peter,
A question and I guess then an observation. Question and then an observation that we may or may not. I guess the first is, if we continue this trend with standard fares being down, and obviously we've been lucky in terms of our interest rates and some of our operating expenses being lower. Do you anticipate or forecast a potential for a net operating loss for the year?
At this point, no, I do not anticipate a net operating loss for the year.
And then my observation would be, last month, you did the cost of service analysis that we went over, and then looking at kind of this kind of loss in the standard fare. It seems to me that it's safe to assume as we move forward and looking at our rates for the next year, that the percentage of the standard fare that subsidizes the excursion fare now is is lower. That we won't be able to continue to subsidize as much as the excursion fare at a discount from cost of service based upon what we're getting through our standard fare. Is that a potential accurate observation?
So for the budget, we look at the last 12 months of actual travel. And if the quantity of standard fare vehicles are down, either that rate has to go up more because there's less of those vehicles, or another category would have to pick up that differential.
Right, so we could,
Yes.
I understand your answer.
Yes. So potentially, to answer your question, yes.
just along those same lines,
Pardon?
I also understand where we're sitting.
Yeah.
along the same line, Peter, you know, with the reduction in routes and things like that, how do you think that's gonna end up year round? What the impact of not having a fifth route on the fast ferries and anything else that we're
Sure.
curtailing and canceled trips?
Yep, so on the Nantucket run, you'll see a reduction in vehicular revenue. The question is it truck revenue or passenger vehicle revenue, because you don't have the capacity that you had last year with the Sankey replacing the Woods Hole. So you're losing roughly 10 spaces a trip a day or 30 spaces a day in each direction. So you will see an impact on the revenue from the vehicles on the Nantucket run. On the Vineyard run, I don't anticipate the vehicle revenue from the space allocation being an issue on the Vineyard run, because you have the aggregate space for the whole day versus certain windows that were affected.
All right.
The passenger revenue on the Nantucket run will be affected on the high-speed boat, but you'll have cost savings as far as offsetting with crewing and additional fuel savings from the IANO. Additionally, when we looked at the budget for this year, we used the last 12 months, and part of that period, we did not run the INO last year for that fifth trip as well. So you'll have an impact, but might not be as much as we think.
Okay. That's fine.
So,
Any further questions, Rob? Any questions? Okay,
So just so I understand, Mark, you're saying that you don't anticipate a revenue shortfall that will impact our operating income due to the number of trips that have been canceled due to crew shortages and other things?
there will be some impact because of the crew shortages. As far as the schedule changes going the Vineyard run, the net capacity for the day, I think will be similar, because a lot of the times we're not operating on the Vineyard route outside of Saturday, Sundays, 100%, where some of the people that were traveling at 3:45 might not be traveling at 5. So that'll trickle throughout the day. And this weekend schedule for the Vineyard route did not get negatively impacted because the Sankey that was tied up was only operating Monday through Friday.
Well, the trucks got impacted,
But the trucks on the weekend were not impacted.
correct.
So it was really a Monday through Friday
So
issue.
you don't see, as a result of the various cancellations, that we're gonna have a significant or material impact on our operating income?
Correct. I think the issue is gonna be on the Nantucket run.
Okay.
Yes, the impact, the Vineyard Run vehicle wise will not see the impact that the Nantucket Run will, because they have less capacity. Yes, we will have an impact on the vehicle revenue. I did mention that earlier. Sorry if I didn't say clearly, but the vehicle revenue will have an impact this year because of this change in schedules.
Okay, any further questions? If not, thank you very much, Mark.
Who's still up in there?
So in your packet, there's a fuel hedge program. I know most of the board was watching it virtually in the Port Council. I can just have it for informational purposes, because we're running long, or I could go over it at the board's pleasure.
No question. Seen it many times before.
Okay, then I'm all set.
Okay, then moving on. What happened? What happened to my agenda? Where are we going?
Yeah, so we're right here. So, as mentioned earlier, under procurement, we were originally looking at having the support agreement for Stellar Elements, but as discussed earlier, it's self-renewals for 6 months, so. Thanks, sir.
All right, is there any new or old business? Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to go on record to thank the reservations department and particularly the staff in the trucks area. As the board knows and members of the public know, we had significant reductions to our schedule this year due to staffing and due to our ability to run various trips. Vineyard Route lost to Sanctuary, which gave us truck space Monday through Friday. Nantucket lost the 5th round trip to the INO, and we replaced the Woods Hole with the smaller Sanctuary over there. The people who handled the Nantucket route, the people in Vineyard Route, wound up making sure that every truck that had a reservation was accommodated, not necessarily at the same time, but was accommodated to get them over and to get them back. It was a lot of work by a lot of people, and I know that many of the truckers on Martha's Vineyard were very appreciative of the effort that was put in to work with the schedule changes and make it happen here. So I want to make sure that some good news about things that we've done actually get some publicity. Thank you.
There you go.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
If I may, there's 2 items I'd like to bring up.
Please do.
One of which, since we're here in Oak Bluffs, we were notified that the Oak Bluffs fireworks is scheduled for August 16th with the rain dates of the 17th and or the 18th. So we'll be looking to during that time period for the fireworks, we divert those trips into Vineyard Haven instead. So we received that notifications, and we'll be making sure that communications go out once the actual date is finalized. So, and then the other item I had, I just want to inform the board that the Steamship Authority was recently invited to join the Cape and Islands Bridge Coalition. So the coalition is a regional voice representing a diverse group of more than 35 businesses and community organizations from the Cape, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, and Southeast Massachusetts. The coalition's commitment is to continue to support efforts to replace the aging Sagamore and Bourne bridges to ensure the future economic and community viability of the Cape and the islands. So our role in this effort will be to represent the interest of not only our ridership, including the populations of Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket, but the authority itself. The replacement of the bridges obviously has a huge impact on our workforce, decreasing number of whom travel from off Cape, impacts on our operations, including the scheduling, as well as to the residents that we serve. It's important that the Steamship Authority, I feel it's important that the Steamship Authority have a seat at the table for these discussions. And I'm pleased that to represent the Steamship Authority in this effort. And just wanted to make the board all aware of this recent request they realize that as the largest transportation provider on the Cape and Islands that we were an oversight from not being invited originally, so.
Congratulations on your appointment.
So,
You gotta have $1 million.
so, yeah,
Okay, with nothing more to come before this board here, I'd like to read a
public
statement.
comment.
Huh?
Public
Oh, I'm
comment.
sorry. Overlook public comment. All the way to Old Bluffs and there's no public. Leon, yes, welcome.
Welcome to Oak. Welcome to Oak Bluffs. On the new reservation system, I've said this before, and I think that having talked to Mark a little while ago, the system you're looking at should not try to take the existing system you currently have and make it a robust giant item. My idea, I think, is we break it down into modules, one for reservations for vehicles, one for reservations for individuals, and one reservation for trucks. And you're doing the vehicle one, you just assume that there's one passenger in the vehicle. All other passengers will be booking through the passenger module that we included. And I think that would go a long way to hopefully minimize the overall cost if you're breaking it down into certain modules, because you can always put one of those modules in place before everything else is finished. So that would be one of the things I was suggesting. But Mark said that you're looking at systems that have modules built into the hopefully.
Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, yes.
I'm talking as a, I don't know, maybe just a regular person from Oak Bluffs, or maybe as a town official too. And I just thought that this might be an opportunity that you are here in Oak Bluffs. That, yeah, to stress the struggles that the people of the island have because of the reservation system and trying to get on and off the vineyard at all times during the year, even in the winter when it seems to be slower. It is a struggle. I urge people to go to the meetings by Zoom or to write in so you can hear it directly, but we hear it all the time. I'm not asking for you to answer or do anything. I've heard your struggles too during this meeting, but I guess I just, here I have the opportunity, so I just wanted to relay that. Mr. Malcolm knows very well, he has a lot of them too, I'm sure. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Good.
For the third OSV, I really wish you would consider it being a hybrid vessel. I know that you think it's great that it's going to be a tier 4 vessel, but I looked into this at great length, and the tier system has to do with air pollution. It doesn't have to do with carbon reduction. It doesn't have to do with greenhouse gas reduction. So I would really like some more research done into making that OSB a better vessel, a cleaner vessel.
Thank you. Nothing else? All right. I'm going to read this statement. I'd like to entertain a motion to go on executive session to discuss the approval of minutes of the authorities meeting in executive session of June 20th, 2024, and review the authority strategy with respect to collective bargaining, negotiations, and contract negotiations with non-union employees, because a public discussion of these matters may be a detrimental effect on the authority's negotiating and bargaining positions. These matters include the anticipated and ongoing negotiations with Teamsters Union Local 59, SEIU Local 888, and MEBA District Number 1 PCD, and the authority's employment contract with the General Manager Robert B. Davis. The public disclosure of any more information with respect to these matters would compromise the purpose for which the executive session is being called. After the conclusion of the executive sessions, we will not reconvene in public. So may I have a motion?
I'll move.
And I have a second. I'll have a roll call, starting with Rob.
Randy, I.
Jeffrey, I.
Malcolm, I.
Jones, aye. We're now in executive session and only the board.
Do we have to move to the other room? Rob, we're gonna have to, give us 5 minutes, we're gonna be moving to a different room. So you